Hello and welcome to Writing with Steve, with me, Steve Evans, and as you can see we've escaped the confines of our studio. We're actually in the lovely town of Nantwich in Cheshire, and I'm here because I'm doing some research for the YouTube channel. I'm also doing some research for a story. So this video is dedicated to research and how much of your research should show in your story. Research is a type of backstory. If you haven't already watched our video on backstory, don't forget to check it out. So I live around 35 miles from Nantwich, so it's been easy for Carol and I to visit here today on our fact-finding expedition. And again, it's really lovely here, and one of the benefits of coming here is that because I'm going to feature this town in my story, I wanted to get the feel of the place. So the feel of the place is just the colours and the temperature, what it's like in September, because this video is being shot in September, and you just get aspects of the place, dimensions to the place you wouldn't get if it was just a Wikipedia search or just looking it up in an encyclopedia. Being here even gives me clues about the lighting at particular times of the day. Also, potential locations I may use in my story. So we've got beautiful little lakeland around here, we've got a bridge to the back of me, we've got plenty of countryside and a railway line and a railway level crossing. So all this is now feeding into my research. Of course, if your story is set thousands of miles away from where you live or thousands of years in the past, well, you'll just have to get down to the bread and butter research. So that will be encyclopedias, other books on the subject, Wikipedia, nothing wrong with that, just to get that basic background, that canvas for your studies. However, you can maybe cut through that straight away if you're actually using your location where you live as the feature of your story. Think of that, you know, your own experience can come to bear in that. That cuts out lots of research time. Think of the Brontes in the Yorkshire Moors. We associate Thomas Hardy with his hometown of Dorchester, the county of Dorset. Think of Houseman in Shropshire, and of course Alice Walker, who grew up in rural Georgia. So making the area you come from the subject matter of your story is a great way of bringing research light into your story. However, that research will add texture and flavour. It will act as a canvas on which to draw your story on. Background is exactly that, a canvas, and should be kept as far away from the story as possible. I've approached research in two different ways. The first way was a complete disaster for me, so I'll tell you about them both, and I'll tell you why the first one ended up as a complete wipeout. I had this idea for a short story and it was set in the Second World War. Here's the premise. A young American pilot finds himself in England in 1944. He's homesick, he's lonely, he meets a young English girl. She really likes him. They begin to spend time together. So far so good. Complication time is that the young girl was engaged to an English fighter pilot who is presumed dead, missing in action. Complication. Next moment, the American pilot finds out that he's going to be stationed abroad. At the same time, the young woman discovers that her fiancé is not dead. He's been found, he's alive, but badly injured. What we say are life-changing injuries. And she feels terribly guilty. She is relieved and yet she feels guilty because also it may mean the end of the happiness she has found with the young American airman. So far so good. There's a formula there, something that I could build upon for the story. Now it came to research. So what did I need to research? Well, I started to research about pilots, American pilots stationed in England. I was going to set the story in a Cheshire town, something like Nantwich. So I wanted to find out where the American Air Force bases would be. I wanted to find out about American training. Perhaps I wanted to find out about the American planes, what planes they would be flying around 1944. So I begin researching all this, and at the same time I'm researching, I'm looking at the geography, I'm looking at the history, I start looking at the political background, what was going on elsewhere in different theatres of war during the Second World War. All well and good, but really, did I need to go into so much detail about the plane as the oxygen composition and the machinery for delivering air to the pilots when they were flying at high altitude? The more I researched, the less time I spent on actually, writing the story. The research took over my story. And in fact, to be completely honest, don't tell anybody, to be completely honest, I think I was using my research as an excuse not to start writing the story. In fact, my research began dictating how my story was going to develop. The story was no longer at the centre. So all I was left with by the end was just a couple of ideas in my head, 2 pages on A4, which was the framework for the story, and in the end I gave up. I didn't do any more writing on that story. I just shelved it away. I locked it away in the drawer. Second time. In contrast, I had another idea, again set in the aftermath of the Second World War. But this time, I wrote the story down first. I put the story right at the front and I proceeded on that basis. Only after I completed the story and I was into editing the first draft did I start checking the facts and details about the time the story was set. So for example, one of my protagonists, she travels down from Edinburgh to Liverpool by train. In my first draft, I said that the journey was direct, so therefore I had to then check whether that was true. Was there a direct train from Edinburgh to Liverpool, or did it have to stop somewhere for transfer? Also, I said the journey took around 5 hours, so I wanted to check whether in 1947 that was the typical length of time from that journey from Edinburgh down to Liverpool. There was also another couple of factors that I needed to look at. In my story, again involving an American pilot, I'd written that during the Second World War he was allowed an 8-day furlough while in the UK. So again, I wanted to research whether that was typical. Did American pilots receive an 8-day furlough, and were they able to roam where they wanted to roam in that time? So I verified those, or if they were incorrect, inaccurate, I changed those details and facts, but the core of the story stayed the same. Also, as part of the first draft, I passed on my manuscript to a critical friend. So a critical friend is someone who is really important in the editing process, usually a trusted friend that you can hand your draft to and they'll give you constructive feedback. If they are also kind of specialists in that particular era, that history, or the background to where your story is set, even better. Thanks to my critical friend, I was able to make quite an important change to the story. I'd written that the young American pilot was in the United States Air Force. I never thought anything different until my critical friend drew it to my attention that the USAF didn't exist during the Second World War. The USAF was founded in 1947. Before that, it was the United States Army Air Force. So yeah, that was a big change. I'm so grateful for that advice, but it didn't change the core of the story. The story remains central, and that was the important part of researching after the story rather than before it. So this means we have the story in the bag, because after all, it's the reader's emotional investment in the story that comes first. Like we said before, background should stay in the background. So I hope my trials and tribulations regarding research is really useful, and I hope by telling you this you avoid the pitfall that I experienced in my first story, my first draft. I completed the second story with no problem at all. Get down the story first, write it out, then research to weed out any inconsistencies. This will all be done in the first and second drafting process. This video is a series of videos we've been making which will take you through the planning, the writing and the publishing process. So if you haven't seen those videos, please check them out. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button and ring the bell. If you have any suggestions regarding research, please don't forget to share them with us in the comments box. Until next time, write well.